So you want to run a high-end video editing program or something else as resource intense, but your computer just can't cope. In this video I'm going to show you how you can run these programs on any device, even down to a Chromebook or iPad. Let's take a look at how to do this. We're going to use Microsoft Azure to create a virtual machine powerful enough that we can use things like Davinci Resolve or Adobe Premier Pro on it. Now, a bit of a disclaimer, this isn't a free solution, but when you create an Azure account you get £150 in the UK or $200 in the US credit to use in your first month, which is plenty to try this out to see if it works for you. Make sure you stay until the end and I'll give you some tips to keep the costs of this to a minimum. If you find this video useful, hit the subscribe button and let me know in the comments what else you'd like me to create videos on. This isn't going to be a discussion on the ins and outs of Microsoft Azure. Let me give you a very quick rundown of what Azure is. Azure is Microsoft's public cloud platform. In a very brief overview, that means that Microsoft has data centers spread across the globe that we can use or rent the resources that we need. Now for us, that means that we can create a virtual machine in one of these centres and for the cost of the renting the resources, create a virtual computer powerful enough to run video editing or any other high-end computer program. Let's dive in. Start by searching for Microsoft Azure. Look for this link with Get Your Free Account in it. Let's have a quick look at what we get when we sign up. Here's that credit that I talked about. $200 here. We also get access to some of the Azure services free for 12 months. And there's some always free parts as well. But it's this free credit that we'll use to try out the service to see if it works for us. To get started, scroll back up to the top of the page and click on Start Free. Follow through the sign up process. It's pretty straightforward. You will need to enter payment details in the form of a credit card. Don't worry, you won't be charged anything. You have to actively switch to a paid account. It's not like most free trials that automatically start charging you. This one doesn't start charging it until you actively switch over. I already have an account, so I'm going to switch straight over and sign in. If you already have an account, just go to the website portal.azure.com and sign in. Let's get rid of this remember password box. Once you sign in, you are taken to this page. This section in the middle will be blank for you. I've been using this a little before this video. As you haven't created anything yet, it will be empty. Now there are lots of options here, but the one we want to jump into is virtual machines. A virtual machine is a computer that doesn't have its own dedicated hardware. The best analogy I have here is take a big physical house. That's our physical computer, then divide that into separate flats or apartments. They are virtual machines, but a virtual machine is a little more flexible as it allows us to adjust the size of the rooms, even add extra rooms as we need. Anyway, enough of this analogy. We can see that I already have a couple of virtual machines. One of these I'm actually using to create this video, but ignore these for now. We want to create a new one, so click Add in the top left. After a few seconds, we have some details to fill in. Under subscription, yours should say free trial. I'm just coming to the end of my free trial, so I've switched over to a pay-as-you-go model. I'll explain the charges in a few minutes. The next box is resource group. Now, a resource group is basically just a container for grouping Azure things together. When we create something in Azure, we have to put it in a resource group. So let's create new. As this will be the first time you're doing this, you won't have any existing ones to put stuff in yet. Let's give it a name. I'll use the highly generic My Video Editing resource group. Now we need to name our machine. This is just the name that it will be known as in Azure. So I'll pop in Video Editing 1. The next box is Region. There are lots to pick from here and you should pick a region that is closest or at least fairly close to where you will be using this from. The closer it is, the better performance you will get. For this example, let's pick US East US. Next, we need to pick the operating system we want to use. This is pretty straightforward. Make sure you pick Windows 10 Pro. Ignore the Azure Spot instance, and then we are onto size. At this point, we get to pick how many CPUs, how much RAM, and that our machine has. Click Change Size. Now, by default, we have some filters added to this list, which we need to remove. Not sure why Azure puts these in for us, but let's get rid of them. Just click the cross for each one. That's better. We can now see all the options that we have. We are looking for quite a specific one. See the family column? You can see that we have some for general purpose and some near the bottom for memory optimize. If you scroll down the list, you will find some that have GPU here, and they are the ones we want. Specifically, we are looking for a size that starts NV. You'll see some NC ones. Don't use these. They don't work for what we want to do. I'd highly recommend selecting this NV6 Promo one to start with. We can see on the right there is a cost. It's rather a lot. I could build a machine for that. But don't panic. That price estimate is based on leaving the machine running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As long as you only leave the machine running while you're using it, it shouldn't cost you anywhere near this. Remember, you have the free credit to try out, and Microsoft won't charge your card if you run out of free credit. So you really can try this out for free. Now, before I finally click the select button, you'll notice that there are quite a few options greyed out here. These aren't currently available in the selected region. This could be for any number of reasons. At the time of recording, there is a pandemic going on that has caused a rather large spike in demand for Azure resources, as everyone tries to work from home. If the NV6 Promo option is greyed out, you can either try again later or click on Create a Virtual Machine at the top here and select a different region. You might need to try a few different regions before you find one that has the machine size you want. So once we select NV6 Promo, click Select at the bottom. Once we come back to the Create a Virtual Machine page, we can see our selected size. Remember, don't panic at the price. That's if you leave the machine running 24 hours a day for a whole month. I'll show you how to keep the cost down towards the end of the video. Next, we need to specify a username and password. This will be the username and password that we use to log into the machine. I'll set a fairly generic username and password and then confirm the password again. Next, we have inbound ports. Make sure you leave these as they are. We need this so we can connect to the machine once it's ready. The last section you can ignore as well. This is just to do with business customers that may have volume licensing. Once that's all done, click Next, Disks. We have the option to change the type of disk our virtual machine uses. I'm going to leave this on standard SSD, but you do have the option of standard HDD, which would be slightly cheaper, or the most expensive premium SSD. I'll leave it as standard SSD though, and we'll leave the encryption type as it is. Now click Next, Networking. There isn't anything we need to change here. Azure will create a virtual network for us and make sure that we can connect to the computer without us needing to change anything. So just click Next, Management. Again, we don't need to change anything. This mostly sets up options to allow us to troubleshoot the machine if we get stuck. The default options here are fine. Click Next, Advanced. On this page, or blade as it's actually called, click on Select an extension to install. Let me just close this box. Edge is still asking if I want to store the password. Okay, now we can see all the available extensions that we can add to this machine. The specific one that we want is NVIDIA GPU driver extension. This will install the NVIDIA drivers for us. So click on it, then click on Create at the bottom. And finally click on OK in the bottom left here. You can install the drivers manually, but I find it easier to select them here. We can now see that we have NVIDIA GPU driver extensions selected, so we can click Next Tags. Nothing for us to do here. This page just allows us to add tags to the machine. This makes it easier to find in Azure later on. Click Next, Review and Create. Azure will now validate all our settings. If we've made a mistake, Azure will tell us at the top here. We can then go back and correct it and then click on Review again. We can see that this machine is going to cost us 71 to 72 pence an hour. That's about 87 cents. It will cost a little when it's not running or deallocated, but this is very little. So as long as we only keep the machine running while we're using it, that sounds pretty good to me. Once we are ready, click Create. It's going to take a while to create this for us. You'll see in the top right that it's getting this ready. You'll see a little blue line flashing across while it's working on the deployment. I'll speed this section of the video up and let you know how long it takes once we come back. Okay, that took 7 to 8 minutes. If you've navigated away from this page while you've been waiting, just click the bell in the top right and it will tell you in there that it's completed. Once it's completed, just click the Go to Resource button. Here we can see the full details of our virtual machine. At the bottom are a few graphs so we can see what resources it's using. On the left we can delve deeper into various components that make up the machine. More on that in a bit. The thing we need to take note of here is in the top right, public IP address. Take a note of this. The easiest thing to do is copy it to the clipboard. If you move your mouse up to it, on the right you'll see the copy icon appear. Just click it to copy the IP address to the clipboard. The public IP address is exactly what it says. It's the address of where this machine can be found on the internet. I'm not going into technical detail here. I'll just say it's a bit like the more familiar domain names we are used to, like google.com or facebook.com. It's how we find stuff on the internet. Now, with that copied to the clipboard, click the Start button and navigate to Windows Accessories and click on Remote Desktop Connection. On the window that appears, paste the IP address into the computer box. Either click in the box and hit Ctrl+V, or right-click in the box and select Paste. Once the IP address is in the box, click Connect. Now we need to enter our username and password. This is the username and password we set when creating the machine. So in my case, it's 8-bit for the username and my normal password. Then click OK. Once that's successfully entered, we'll get a message about certificates. Just click Yes to continue. Now we are connecting to the computer and after a while it will begin logging in. For some reason, the on-screen keyboard always comes up. Just ignore it, it'll go away. Now we have the initial settings. I'm just going to click Accept, but you can specify whatever you want. And then we're into our Azure virtual machine. Let's close Edge and take a look at what this machine is running. I'll right click on the taskbar and select Task Manager. Once that's loaded, click on More Details and then select the Performance tab. And lastly, to get more details, right click on the CPU graph, select Change Graph to, and then select Logical Processors. That's better. Now we can see our 6 cores. They are working pretty flat out at the moment as the machine is still doing some background setup tasks. We can see that we have 56 gig of memory. Our main drive, which consists of a C drive, is quite small by default. We've only got 127 gig. You'll probably run out pretty quickly, so I'll show you how to increase that in a minute. These machines also come with a scratch drive, which gets the D letter. This gives you an extra 340 gigs of storage, but it's only temporary storage. When the machine gets shut down, you will lose whatever is on this drive, so don't store anything you want to keep on it. This could be useful for storing temporary or cache files. Next we've got the network. And finally, we can see the GPU. It's an NVIDIA Tesla M60. I'm no graphics card expert, but all I'll say is that I've been creating a few videos using this method now and haven't run into any performance issues so far. Right, let's look at some of the things you'll want to do. First, you'll want to run Windows updates. So let's open Windows Settings, Update and Security, and then click the Check for Updates button. You want to get the machine up to date. I'm just going to close this and shut the machine down for a minute so I can show you how to increase the size of that C drive. We're now back to the Azure portal and our own machine. As we're finished with this virtual machine, the first thing to do is click the Stop button. You want to do this every time you are finished with the virtual machine. This will basically put it in a dormant state and bring that hourly charge down to next to nothing. Remember, I'm going to be charged 75p an hour if I don't shut it down like this. We'll get a warning that it will lose the IP address if we stop it. That's fine, it will just allocate a different one when we start it up again, so click OK. That will take a few seconds. We can see the blue bar moving in the top left again, so let's just wait for that to finish. Okay, now that's finished, let's look at making that C drive bigger. First, click Disk on the left. You should see one disk listed. Notice it's showing the size as 127 gig. Click the name, then on the left click Configuration. We can now type in the new size that we want. I'm going to double the size to 256 gig. Just remember, the bigger the drive, the more you'll be charged. Even when the computer is dormant, you still get charged for the storage of the hard drive. So the bigger the drive, the more you'll be charged. I found a web page here to give you an idea of the difference in costs. This is just for comparison. We have 126 gig of storage here for $17.92, 256 for roughly double at $34.56, and you can see the cost spiralling up. The advice is to set the storage to the minimum that you need. You can always increase it as your needs increase. So once we are happy with the new size, click Save at the top. Now we need to open the virtual machine again and allocate that new storage space. So click Home in the top left. You should now see a few things under Recent Resources. You can either click on your virtual machine listed here or go back through the virtual machines at the top. Then select your virtual machine. You'll need to do this each time you want to start your virtual machine. Now we need to click Start. Give the machine a little while to start. Once it's done, you'll see a new public IP address. So now we can copy this to the clipboard again and then open Remote Desktop Connection. Paste in the new IP address and click Connect. Enter our login details and click Yes to confirm the certificate. Once we are into the virtual machine again, we need to jump into disk configuration. There are a couple of ways of doing this. I tend to open Windows Explorer, then right click on this PC and then click on Manage. Once Computer Management has loaded, select Disk Management. We can see the new free space on the end of the disk 0. To allocate this to the C drive, right click on Windows C partition and select Extend Volume. You can go through the wizard with the default options. This will use all the free space for the C drive. Once that's done, close Computer Management. Let's just confirm it's actually done. In Windows Explorer, I'm going to click on this PC. There, Windows C has 243 gig free of 255. What do you think would happen if I finished working with the machine but I forgot to shut it down? Perhaps I lost internet connection and forgot that the machine was still running. Well, I would be charged at that 71p an hour until I remembered about the machine and came back into Azure to click that stop button. There is another setting we can look at which will automatically shut the machine down at a set time each day. This can be useful to avoid that overcharge. Let's shut the machine down for a minute, and from the settings page let's take a look at auto shutdown on the left. If you want to set an automatic time to shut down, just enable the service at the top by clicking on, and then setting a scheduled shutdown time and a time zone that this time applies to. I'll leave it at midnight. I've normally gone to bed by then, and I'll set my time zone to London for the UK. You can have the system send you an email to say it's shutting the machine down, but I won't worry about that. I'll just click the save at the top. There, done. Now that should avoid me being overcharged for the time that I'm not using the machine. I won't bore you with how to install a video editing program onto the virtual machine, but let me show you the computer that I've been using. Here we go. I've customised it a little, just as I would my actual computer. I've been using, trying to learn, Davinci Resolve for my video editing. Let me load that up and show you that it works. I'll just jump into a recent project. There you go, all loaded. I've hardly used any effects, so there isn't much to show you. What you can see from the first page is that the project, a roughly 10-minute video, only took 5 minutes and 40 seconds to render. If I tried doing that on any of my old computers I have at home, it would have taken somewhere in the region of 45 minutes to render. What I like about this solution is that I can start a project on one machine, jump across to a completely different device, but I can jump straight back into my virtual machine, continue where I left off. The remote desktop program is available on most platforms, including Android, iOS and Mac. Please remember to subscribe below if you found this video useful. Also, let me know in the comments what you would like me to cover next. Thanks for watching.